What's up, everybody? You're very welcome along to this week's Cop Council podcast here on Anfield Agenda. I'm your host, Craig, and joining me to have a look at all things Liverpool related, I've got Cash and I've got Chris. And what better place to start, guys, than with listeners' questions? Cash, the first question this week is actually a relatively normal one for us. It's really straightforward, and as an Irish person, I've got to say, I'll be really disappointed if you don't give me the correct answer on this one. So, John McCready wants to know, crisp sandwiches, Cash, yes or no?
I think I'm going to give you the wrong answer here, Craig. I'm not a fan of them, you know? Not a fan. I know. I just don't, like, you know what it is? It's because I don't like butter very much. And, like, my memories from, like, being a kid is that you could just see the butter like gleaming off the sandwiches and then them trying to put crisps along with that. Like, no. Like, don't get me wrong, if it was like my last day on earth and I had to eat something, I would eat them. But I wouldn't say I'm a massive fan, no. I'm sorry if that bursts your Irish bubble.
It's okay, we're going to have a bit of a meeting and possibly disown you from the clan and kick you out of the country altogether. I understand. I don't eat butter either, Cash, to be fair, on bread, so I get where you're coming from. Things can be awfully dry if you don't have butter, but if we push just to the crisp side of this, Cash, the important part of that scenario, for you, if you were to have a bag of cheese and onion crisps, what would be your go-to bag? What would be your company or your brand that you'd go to?
Does it have to be cheese and onion, yeah?
No, sorry, no. I just assumed being Irish that, again, that was your go-to flavour.
Yeah. Even though I look very Irish, I'm like the worst Irish person ever. Favorite crisp flavoured of like an Irish company, there's nothing better than Tato spring onion. Like the spring onion Tato or like Spawn. So nice. But like generally I like anything salty. So like anything salty I would go for it.
Hello, sailor.
What's that?
I said hello, sailor.
But yeah, I like anything salty. So yeah, I would go for that. But then if I'm going with like an Irish specific, like you don't get good spring onion crisps anywhere but Ireland. So yeah, that'll be my answer.
I remember the last visit over to the UK with Connor. We were walking through the supermarkets and I was trying to get some crisps, and I was almost like such an Irish snob going through going, they call these fucking cheese and onion crisps. They call this pile of shit cheese and onion crisps. They should be ashamed of themselves. It's very hard to get a decent bag of crisps in England. It's really hard. Do you remember the pub crisps, Cash, growing up in Ireland? Like cheese and onion pub crisps, there'd be that much salt and stuff on them. You'd have to drink 9 pints just to get through them.
Well, that's why they sold them. They're like, the more they eat, the more they'll need to drink.
Exactly, absolutely. Chris, for you, buddy, crisp sandwiches. Did I just say Chris or crisps? I'm confused now. Chris, crisp sandwiches?
It's pretty easy to answer that. It's a definite yes, all the way. Got to be having crisp sandwiches, and it's a mood thing as to what flavour you have on them, I suppose. But I think you can't go wrong with cheese and onion if you're just having crisps on their own.
But you see, you being in England, there, you're stuck with your shitty Walkers.
No, not at all. Not at all. No, there's lots of nice crisps available. But like Walkers, if you're going to have Walkers, go for the Sensations.
So, Chris, talk me through your crisp. I said crisp again. I'm fucking crisp on the brain. Chris, talk me through your crisp sandwich game here. What's the bread? What's the situation? What are we having on it?
Well, I think you need a good sturdy bread if you're having crisp sandwiches. So you'll probably go for like your sort of more home brand, not your home brand, your branded ones. So perhaps like a Warburton's or something like that. But I think, I tell you what, I don't know if it's just like a Northern England thing or whatever. We take the crisp sandwich a step further and we'll have like, let's say, a ham sandwich and then add the crisps. So you'll take the packet of crisps with you. So rather than just put them on the sandwich as you're making it, you'll take the sandwich and then add the crisps. Don't know why. It's just something you do. So let's say you're having like a cheese sandwich, you might put salt and vinegar on, or if you're having a ham cheese sandwich, you might have smoky bacon, or I don't know. Just So I think we can pretty much just have anything on a sandwich there in the north of England. I've heard of people having like pot noodle sandwiches and things like that. It's not my kind of thing, but there you go. But with crisps, yeah. I think I've never met anyone who doesn't like a crisp sandwich.
Chris, let me introduce you to Cash. Cash, Chris.
Until now. Although she did say she would eat one. It's not like a definite
Yeah,
no.
I would eat it if necessary.
Yeah.
Chris, we have a bread over here in Ireland called doorsteps. I mean, that you can guess that's a thick bread.
I've had them. Yeah, I've had them. I mean, I've spent quite a bit of time over in Ireland and Northern Ireland. I suppose the most Irish thing you could probably do would be get like soda bread and put cheese and onion crisps on it, isn't it? But it's over here. It's probably more about the crisps than the bread. I think it's kind of just, I need a sandwich. Just need to get some food in me. Whatever bread's available.
I'm sure that a crisp sandwich cafe opened in Belfast. I'm almost positive of it.
That would be awesome. I've often wondered like why that's not on menus. Like, you know, if I own like a little cafe or something like that, you know, just 2 rounds of bread, probably, you know, wrapped in cling film or something, packed of crisps.
They sell that in Tesco, mate, over here. Yeah. Tato do it. You can buy a Tato pack with your Tato. Yeah, you Tato your bread, your buttered bread and stuff. Yeah, all pre-packaged. £2.
So that's a winner. Brilliant. That. I'm not sure it's worth £2, but
€2 now. Yeah. Remember, €2, not €2 of your English sterling pounds.
There's not much difference, is there?
Thankfully, but, no, there's not these days.
But no, it's. Tell you what, crisp wise, I have tried it with Lay's paprika crisps. I think I've mentioned them on one of the pods before. Tend to get them like around Europe. I had them in Germany, and it was I can't remember. I don't know what the bread was. It was just like some locally baked bread. So I've had a German crisp sandwich.
My missus loves Lay's Lay's cheeseburger crisps. I think we got them in Paris when we were over there.
Oh, I've tried them. They're good. Yeah.
Did you ever have bimbo bread when you were in Spain or anything?
Yeah.
It's really sweet. Like, it's weird.
It is. Yeah, it is. That could work on a crisp sandwich, I think.
I got to do an entire podcast here on bread and crisps. Without a shadow of a doubt, I could fill an hour talking about bread and crisps. No problem to me. It's the most Irish thing ever. Like, but the second question, guys, the second listener's question this week, and thank you to John again for sending us in that one. Cash, the next question is a little bit more off the beaten track. So Far Isle asks, you've been challenged to show your bravery. Do you A, skydive, B, fill in for a snake handler, C, spend the night in a haunted house, D, go scuba diving at night, or E, wear a full Everton kit in the Cop?
It wouldn't be A, because I've already done a skydive and I didn't find it scary, so to do it wouldn't be brave. Was B the snake handler?
It was indeed.
Yeah, I think that would be mine. I think, because I find snakes really fucking like freaky. Like, I don't know. Like, my mum used to always say, like, never trust something that doesn't have a set of legs. And I think I've like adopted that philosophy. And I find snakes really fucking creepy. So I would say, to display my bravery, I would do a combination of B and E. So I'd stand in for a snake handler whilst wearing a full Everton kit on the Cop.
I'll get you. If you're on the Cop with some Everton fans anyway, it should already be full of snakes, but I get where you're coming from. Not many of those scare me either, but I'll come to Chris before I give my answers on these. Not many of them would really particularly scare me. But Chris, for you, buddy, so do you want me to go through the answers again, or have you got them?
I've got them, and there isn't a single one that scared me at all or challenge me whatsoever. I work at heights a lot, so skydiving, something I know it's a lot higher, but it just wouldn't bother me. I can guarantee you that. Snakes. Yeah, I tell you what, I'm petrified of spiders. Like, really am. Yeah, they're not. No, they're evil.
Even the little ones in your house, like.
Yeah, I won't touch them. I won't go near them. No. Rather not. I'd rather just stay the hell away. They stay away from me. I stay away from them. I'm fine. Yeah. So if you were to swap snakes for spiders, and I was challenged, yeah, I'd probably rise to the challenge, like, but I wouldn't enjoy it much. But there's not too many things in the animal kingdom that really worry me. I'm not worried about heights. Scuba diving at night. It's much different than scuba diving in the day. Might be, other than the dark, but I'm not worried about the dark. I'm assuming you'd have a torch. No, so yeah, none of them worry me. So if you were to swap snakes for spiders, then yeah.
For me as well, I'm petrified of heights, Chris. I'm the exact opposite of you. I'm petrified of heights, but I would find skydiving easy, because what happens to me when I'm up in a tall building or anything is I want to jump, because that's the worst thing that could happen is you fall. So I want to get that out of the way.
Yeah. It's vertigo, isn't it? That when you feel like jumping.
So
really,
skydiving for me would feel like a natural response.
it's quite funny actually. I work on lifters a lot, and I can work up to just like 150 foot, maybe on the average boom lifter. And sometimes you'll get somebody working with you, like a trainee who's not been up that high before, and he's not quite got his sea legs, and you just watch the colour drain from them, and you're all blasé about it. You're working away, and the guy next to you just looks like he just wants to die. I've seen people scared of heights. I feel sorry for them, like, because it looks like it's the worst thing in the world. So I'm very blasé about it, but it just looks like it must be horrible to be scared of heights. For
me, I'm petrified of rats. So if I was to change snake handler for rats, that would be me as well. I would be nowhere near it. Yeah, not a hope. So yeah, I'm gonna have to change it for rats. So if I had to be a rat handler, that would be my show of bravery. But Jesus Christ, I hate the little furry bastards.
Are rats really furry? I always feel like they don't look furry. They just look like just extra, just loads of like rubbery skin or something.
It depends on the breed. Some of them are quite cute, furry little creatures. So it's like your water rats. They're not. Just look like bigger mice, really. But they don't. Again, like, I go fishing a lot. Some places they're quite brazen, and they'll come up and try and take your bait, or just sit there and expect you to feed them. Like, it's not. They're not particularly. It's weird. Like when I've grown up, sort of coming face to face with them in the wild and that, like, they're not that scary, really. But again, like, why should I be scared of spiders? It's absolutely no reason why I should be scared of spiders. Nothing's really happened to me with a spider to make me scared of them. It's one of them things, isn't it?
Well, thankfully you live on the side of the world where spiders aren't really that big of an issue. If you were living in Oz or something, mate, or South America, you'd be screwed.
Well, you know what? I told them, I spoke the other day with someone at work who was Australian, and she was saying to me about all the virtues of Australia, and I was speaking to her about spiders, and she said that it's a real, particularly in the cities, it's a myth that there are spiders like everywhere. Like, usually if there are, they're the huntsman ones, which are quite big, so look menacing, but actually are harmless and just don't do anything to you. But then there's this one apparently that like lives in your toilet. So if you're just like having a poo, then the spider could just nibble at your bum. So that was kind of scary.
See, why would it want to do that? I told you they're evil. There's nothing right with them whatsoever. Why would any animal want to do that? It has to be a spider, doesn't it? No, I'm not having them. Not having them at all.
Why would anybody want to have a little nibble on your arse, indeed? I mean...
I'm a celebrity. Get me out of here every time I see one, tell me.
Yeah, we'll push on and we'll talk about Liverpool. But thank you to Far Island, to John, for those questions this week. As we record this, we're recording this on Sunday night, so we've just seen the Liverpool game earlier on the day, and we've recorded a post-match podcast already talking about the game. But guys, we'll have a little look about the game, maybe from a slightly different angle. So, Cash, the first thing I want to have a chat about were the debutants yesterday for Liverpool. So, obviously Naby Keita, Alisson Becker, and to a lesser extent Shaqiri. So, pick one of those guys and run with it, Cash. Which one do you want to talk about?
Going to be maybe the easy one because he was the most prominent, but I'd say go with Naby Keita. Is that okay?
Of course, work away.
Yeah, so I think with Keita, like we were talking earlier on the post-match pint, and you know, I've been reading a lot of the commentary surrounding the game. Although James Milner got man of the match, and I don't think anybody could begrudge him that, like in terms of his impact on the game. A lot of people were sort of saying, you know, Keita was up there. And I think, you know, it's completely fair to say when you consider the fact that, he was making his debut, but it totally looked like he wasn't making his debut. Do you know what I mean? In the sense of he just, I mean, if you'd just been plonked in Anfield and you'd have been asked to pick out the debutants, you wouldn't have picked anybody in the Liverpool team. Everyone just looked so comfortable. I think with Keita as well, he was particularly influential in the first goal, and he just seems to have an engine that's almost like irrepressible. Like he just constantly runs and runs and runs and runs. And I think what's important about him as well is that he doesn't seem burdened by anything. He doesn't seem burdened by the price tag. He doesn't seem burdened by wearing the Steven Gerrard's old jersey. He doesn't seem burdened by the fact that people are expecting him to be absolutely phenomenal. He just seems very like relaxed about everything. And I think culturally he's quite similar to Sadio Mane, and they're obviously quite close. And I think it's a similar thing in the sense that Sadio Mane takes it all in his stride with a smile on his face as well. So, yeah, I think in terms of the players that made their debuts today, you know, Keita is the easiest one to speak about, not because he's the best per se, but he had the most opportunity to display his skill set. And he just looks like everything we've needed for a couple of years. So yeah, I would laud his performance and say how good he was.
Chris, I've been waiting a very long time, as have many Reds, to have a look at Naby Keita in a game that actually mattered. We'd seen him in pre-season, of course, but he didn't let us down at all today. I thought we got a real glimpse of what we can expect throughout the season from Naby today.
He looked like everything we hoped he'd be. I think if I was just to pick a word out just to kind of describe him, I'd say dynamic. The way he sort of shifts his body to create space when players are, he seems to find space everywhere, doesn't he? He never seems to be under pressure. It doesn't matter who's around him or what kind of proximity anybody's around him. He just seems to find enough time and enough space to get out with the ball. There was a moment earlier in the game where we saw him dribbling past players. That's not particularly something I've seen. I've only seen him a handful of times. Whilst very impressive, I've not seen that part. I've seen him run with the ball, but not literally like dribble past a number of players. He certainly doesn't panic whatsoever, which is how the first goal came about. If you think he didn't treat the ball like a hot potato, he held it and held it and held it until the correct pass was on, and he more or less forced Robbo into making a run outside him and getting in the box, and then obviously the rest is history. You know, he puts a good ball in, but that goal was as much about Naby as it was about Robbo and the finish. So I can't speak highly of him enough. I think he looks a fantastic player, and I think I touched on this earlier as well. What Redknapp said about him looking like he'd been there for 8 years. That's exactly right. He really does look like he's been a part of this team for a while. But that is, and I'm seeing this not just with him, but with other players. Again, I've said this before. It's good players being surrounded by good players, and a manager. We've got a manager who's able to let them express themselves, albeit within quite a, I wouldn't say, I don't know if rigid is the right word, but in a system that asks a lot of them, they're also able to go and express themselves. And he is quite an expressive player. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what more he brings to the side throughout the season. Yeah, he looks worth every penny that we've paid for him as well, doesn't he? Which is a good thing.
There's one.
Sorry, go on, Cash. Go on.
No, I was just going to say, if we're talking about sort of the dynamism of his play, I think we can all remember that chance that he almost set up for Wijnaldum, where he basically like strode into the box. The close control he displayed, like he managed to like sort of slalom through like 3 players, and it almost led to a goal. Wijnaldum got a shot off, but obviously it went wide. But I remember seeing that and thinking, like, how has he kept hold of the ball there? And it was just indicative of his quality. And as I said, it's nice to see one of our midfielders so close to the box like that, displaying real quality on the ball, because, you know, last season...
Well, that's right, yeah. That's exactly right. We're talking about a central midfielder here, aren't we, who is principally who's playing box to box, so in the way that maybe like Gerrard used to, so or even Alonso to a certain extent. So we're not talking about an attacking midfield player, but if you think about how many times he was involved in the attacking play like that, what you've just mentioned there, Cash. It's quite amazing. He's literally got every part of the game, you know, in his locker.
Well,
Quite amazing.
It's amazing, like as you say, you'd be struggling to look at a quality that he lacks. Like if you look at if you look at the qualities that make up a good footballer, he's got them all. Can we sit here and honestly say that he lacks anything? Maybe the only thing is discipline in certain situations, but we have yet to see any evidence of that yet. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in that respect. But I think if his discipline issues are managed properly, even his temperament is a huge asset. So you're looking at a player who at 23 is basically the quintessential all-round midfielder that we've been lacking for years and years.
I cannot wait to see how this season progresses and how Naby Keita gets on. We do have to push on, guys. We'll have a little chat now about Alisson Becker. His first competitive game today. Chris, it wasn't an easy one to grade the goalkeeper on because he didn't have too much to do, to be fair. His distribution looked sharp. There was one time where he misplaced a pass, to be fair, but other than that, he didn't really have much to do this afternoon.
He misplaced the pass, but there was a lot of intention in that pass, if you know what I mean. It wasn't panicky. Does that make sense? He didn't look like he was flat, just throwing his foot at the ball for the sake of it, just to get rid of it. Everything about him just oozes calmness. And I think you could see that in the players in front of him as well, the way he was using them. They were quite confident that he'd find them. They were making themselves available for him. And there were times where normally we'd expect a goalkeeper just launch the ball and then it's going to get won by a centre half and then it's going to come back to us, where we were just playing the ball out. He seemed to find that little bit of time that he needed and pick a pass out, and he's gonna misplace the odd one. Every player in any football shirt for any club around the world is going to misplace passes, and more goalkeepers will misplace more than most. But if you think how many passes he played during the game, there were several out to Robbo. There were pinpoints. Misplacing one, I don't think we can really pick on him for. Nothing came of it. Like I often say, a lot with mistakes by any player, it's also about the players around him helping bail them out as well. They've all got to be on the ball, haven't they? And that's what happened there. That's fine. So I think that's the only thing you can pick on. I know that the commentary, I think it was again Redknapp, wasn't particularly happy with him not catching the ball when he punched it out. He was at full stretch. I'm not certain. When all said and done, if a centre half had cleared that with the foot and it went in the same direction, nobody'd be saying anything. So I've got no issues with that. I think it was just a calm, assured performance from him. We want to see him make some saves, but quite frankly, let's be honest. If he's making saves, then teams are having shots. If teams are having shots, we may concede. We don't want that. I'd like us to just go and win every game easy if we can. And if that means our very expensive goalkeeper doesn't have any saves to make, so be it.
Yeah, where could I sign up for that, Chris? I'm happy enough to go with that one, buddy. Put me down for that, definitely. Cash, do you know what? Look, Chris is right. A lot of the time we're going to see him set up play and start play and try and build attacks. And one of the guys in one of our streams said to us that he actually got a bet at 80-1 for Alisson to set up 4 goals this season.
You could feasibly see that happen. You could feasibly see that happen. I mean, he's one of those goalkeepers that obviously he plays out from the back. He's good. He's lauded for being good with his feet. Obviously not at the behest of being good with his hands, which is his primary objective. But, if Alisson comes in, which he has, and settles everything down, saves what he's meant to save, does concede goals, but, keepers are not infallible. So long as he saves what he's sort of meant to and doesn't repeat the cycle that we've had of late in terms of goalkeepers, I'm quite happy to see him dick about with his feet and, give it a bit of that. I think, why not? Display your flair. As long as, what I don't like is when you used to see Mignolet doing Cruyff turns and stuff when he couldn't stretch his hand far enough to keep shots out of the net, like against Man City last season, for example, away from home. I don't want to see keepers dicking about with all that sort of stuff if they can't do the fundamentals. But if Alisson carries out the fundamentals to the best of his very clearly high ability, I think let him have a go. I think it's fun, and I would happily take that bet. I think 80-1, you could earn some decent money, like.
Yeah, it seemed very generous odds to me when I heard it. And you know what, Cash? Another thing that we can't underplay here is that Alisson is no longer the world's most expensive goalkeeper, so he doesn't have that tag on his shoulders.
Absolutely. I think the thing with Alisson, though, like, if everything about his personality screams like calm and like serene, I don't think that kind of thing would really infiltrate his mind too much. However, to whatever extent it has, it's gone. It was what, less than a month of being the world record goalkeeper, and you'd argue that this is not the podcast to be discussing the virtues of Chelsea signings, but I do think paying such a high amount for a goalkeeper, obviously who's younger than Alisson, less proven on the European stage, well, is totally unproven on the European stage. It could end up being at least immediately not seeming like really good business for Chelsea. But I think with Alisson, he can just get his head down, get on with things, try and win trophies, and do it quietly. Which I think to be fair, more than Alisson, I think the fact that he's no longer the world record goalkeeper will suit Klopp. I think Klopp will be more happy about that, if I'm honest, because you can tell Klopp really doesn't like the line of questioning about our spending this summer. He's asked all the time about he's always asked now about the amount of money we've spent, and does that mean we have to win a trophy and all this. And he's quite defensive about the fact that he's just playing the market, and as he should. So I think the fact that Alisson's no longer the world record holder for a goalkeeper is more relief to Klopp and the club than Alisson. I think Alisson will just let it go over his head.
I feel slightly unhappy that the world record fee for a goalkeeper now belongs to an unbearded goalkeeper. I feel like the beard played an important factor in the 67 million quid Liverpool paid for Alisson Becker, but it's just my opinion. Chris, 78 minutes, I believe, is when we seen Sheridan Shaqiri enter the fray for his Liverpool debut. I tell you what, on the stream I was on, buddy, the love on that screen for him coming on, people calling from the come on moments beforehand, it seems to be that he has won people over already.
Just look at his face. Just before he comes on, just look at his face.
He gets a hug as well. He gets a hug before he came on, Chris.
He just looks like the cat that's got the cream, doesn't he? He just looks
that is the face I would have if I was about to come on to make my debut for Liverpool. That is the face I would have. Fair play to him. He's got to move to the club. He clearly wanted that move. He wants to be here. He wants to do his best for the club. He looks like he's working hard. He's giving his best. He's enjoying it, and that is a big thing. It really is a big thing. If a player is enjoying their time at a club, enjoying the players that they're around, enjoying the manager that they're playing for, enjoying the fans that they're playing in front of, it can only mean good things. But obviously, you've got to have the talent and the ability, and I don't think anybody can question that. So you've got to see his performances through pre-season, and when he came on today, he had an impact on the game. He did, and that's what we've bought him for. And I'm absolutely made up with it. I'm made up with it as a signing because I can't believe we got him for the money that we got him for. Yeah. If we'd have paid double that for him, I'd have been more than happy for that. If we'd have paid more than double, I'd have probably been happy. He is a quality player. He really is. And with quality players around him, I think we're going to see a good season from him. And I think, again, one of the commentators said we probably won't see him make too many starts. I'm not too sure about that. I think he's quite capable of getting a foothold in that side and being an important part of it. But if he's not, that means somebody else is performing better, which is only a good thing for us, isn't it? Because we've got options now, and as long as everybody is playing to the top of their ability, then we're going to win a lot of football matches. And it's only through having quality players like Shaqiri who are quite happy to, put a shift in and show their ability for the club.
Cash, we've got a lot to get through on this pod, and time is against us as always. So I'm going to quickly ask you for your favourite goal of the day and your man of the match, please.
Favorite goal of today. Oh, I'm so indecisive. Sorry. I think, you know what? I actually think my favorite goal was the second one, Mane's first goal. I'll tell you why. Because it comes just before half time. It changes the complexion of the game in terms of, you know, it's no longer like a dangerous 1-0 lead. It's a, you know, controlling, you know, accomplished 2-0 lead that totally reflects the first half and how it played out. And also, I liked it because Milner's sort of involvement and the pullback and executing that isn't to be understated. So I think because of its significance in terms of the time in the game and Milner's involvement in it, I really liked the second goal. And my man of the match story was, we spoke about this earlier, and it's obviously Sky Sports went with Milner. Obviously, Mane scored 2 goals and was buzzing throughout. But I'm going to give it to Naby Keita, and I think it's because of the nature of the way that he came in, made such an accomplished debut when he easily could have looked like it was his debut, but he just didn't. It didn't look like it was his debut. It looked like, you know, he'd been at Liverpool all of last season from when we originally bought him, and that the whole loan back to RB Leipzig was just a myth or like a dream, you know. So I think for that reason, I would give it to him, and you know, also what he has done in terms of like become that like midfielder who is constantly up, well, not constantly, but up in the box. I think it's given us an even bigger fear factor, because obviously last year it was like we've got the dynamic front three, but last year, because our midfielders weren't particularly like, you know, prolific, if you could nullify the front three, and not many could, but if you could get a result. But now, if you nullify our front three, we've got Keita in midfield who can also hurt you. So I think for that reason, I'm going to give him man of the match, because he was accomplished on his debut. It didn't look like his debut, and he's given us even more of a fear factor.
I have to say, you mentioned James Milner's involvement in Mane's goal. I thought he was excellent. I mean, the will, the determination to get on the end of that ball, and the control to pull it back across the box for Mane, I thought was absolutely excellent, Cash.
Well, he doesn't, you know, with James Milner, there's just no challenge that he doesn't meet. You know, comes into Liverpool on a free transfer, doesn't look like it's an signing that really inspires much, is instrumental, plays it, you know, in his first season is really important, is then asked by Jurgen Klopp to play left back, a position he's never played before, does it with aplomb for a season, then comes back into midfield. Everyone's thinking there's no way this guy's going to be like an important, you know, he's going to have an important role. He's a great professional, but in terms of his ability at the top, it's probably beyond him now. Comes in, is instrumental in our season last season, and even though our midfield wasn't prolific, it was still an incredibly good midfield in other ways. So there's just not a challenge that James Milner can't meet. And this season, it's, okay, well, we've now really strengthened the midfield positions. So now his challenge is to make himself relevant within that discussion. And today's performance just proved it's yet another challenge that he's able to meet. Because on this evidence, how does Henderson or Fabinho get into that team? Because who are you dropping in that midfield three? They were all pretty close to perfect. So that's what I love about James Milner. There's just no challenge that he doesn't meet and smash. And he does it all with great humour and a really self-deprecating way that I love.
And doubled the sales of Ribena in the UK overnight as well, single-handedly, we have to say. Chris, for you, buddy, favourite goal and man of the match?
Favourite goals, Daniel Sturridge. Firstly, because I called it. So he did score with his first touch when he come on, and he didn't let me down, my boy. And I just think, not so much for the football leading up to it or the finish, you know, taking all that aside, the other 3 goals were perhaps even better. But it's about the importance of that goal for the rest of this season. 4-0 is better than 3-0. Put us top of the table, made us all feel great. There's a starting position there. And I just feel something we were missing last season was somebody who can come off the bench and look to almost guarantee you a goal or a goal scoring opportunity. I think Sturridge is that player. And I think a fit, firing, confident Daniel Sturridge who will feel, by the way, that he is capable of starting games as well. Let's just say that. But I think a fit, firing, and confident Sturridge coming off the bench, guaranteeing your goals, makes a huge difference to us. It's another level up on last season. That, alongside just having general options around the squad as well in other areas. So I just think it's a massively important goal for him and the team and the club going forward this season. So I'd say that was my pick of the 4. Man of the match. Well, I said earlier, it depends how you measure it. Keita's a shout for all of the things Cash just said. She was bang on all of those things. I think any other game of performance like that, you'd get man of the match. Mane, 2 goals, looked lethal. Again, I've predicted a big season for him. I think he's going to push Salah for top scorer this season. I really think he will. Gomez, first game at centre half, looked fantastic, looked accomplished, looked really comfortable there alongside Van Dijk. And if he's going to play the next few games, that's good to see. But so there's a shout. But it's got to go to one of the midfield 3. I think all 3 of them were outstanding. Gini yet again playing the 6th role and then moving further forward after the changes. I thought he was outstanding. Again, obviously we've already mentioned Keita, but I think I've got to go with the $1 billion man. He just doesn't stop. He must be, I think he's about 60 or something, ready for his bus pass, and he's still outrunning everybody on the football pitch. He's unbelievable. And that stat that flashed up on Sky Sports towards the end of the game, with a few minutes to go, he had played 91 passes with pass accuracy of 94%. There are teams this season who are going to go 90 minutes and not make 91 passes collectively as a team.
Manchester United.
That is unbelievable. If a player, I'm not saying he's as good as your Iniestas and your Xavis, but those are Iniesta and Xavi stats. And if you're posting them in a game, you've got to be man of the match. I don't care. He was just involved. He was involved in goals. He was defending. There were moments in the game where West Ham was starting to get the foot on the ball and knock it around a little bit in the middle of the park after they made a couple of changes, and he was making those clever fouls that he makes, that he just seems to get away with all the time. Such a clever player. So I'll give him my man of the match, definitely.
Cash, the transfer window obviously closed within the last week, and I've seen Jurgen Klopp being interviewed after the game, and he was saying that why is it that Liverpool are apparently the only challengers to Manchester City this season, and that the league isn't won in the transfer window. And I think it was a really good point from Jurgen Klopp. The media are trying to put that pressure on Liverpool because Liverpool spent the most this window, but Liverpool spent the most this window because it was money that they fucking earned. And I'm sick of making that point, but this was money that the club brought in. We weren't hemorrhaging money, we weren't borrowing money to buy these players. These were players that we brought in because we were clever about selling players and the money that the club made. So I just agree with Klopp there. It isn't won in the transfer market. Liverpool needed the strength, and we've been playing catch-up for years with regards to our squad. And I think Klopp is right. The media need to just fuck off, lay off, and let Liverpool go about their business.
Absolutely. I think there's a couple of things to consider. The first is that the media, I think, are trying to create a narrative because Man City won the title by 19 points last season. The mainstream media are desperately trying to create a storyline because they don't want to admit, they don't want to consider the possibility that it could be as much of a landslide again, because last season, the title race was not exciting because it was won by November. So they desperately don't want that to happen again. And in a sense, I can understand that. But why not make it? Why not open it out to a challenge from more than one team? They're not even entertaining the idea that Man United could finish above Liverpool this season. It's almost like the last few seasons haven't happened, and that because Man United didn't buy 42 players this summer, Liverpool are automatically going to finish second. So I do agree with Klopp in that respect. I don't begrudge the media creating a title challenge and wanting there to be one, because it makes for a more interesting storyline. But what I do begrudge is placing all this ridiculous pressure on the shoulders of Liverpool and Jurgen Klopp because we've spent money. Because if you look at the origin of that money, and I'll use an example, a contrasting example. So Villa, obviously, were threatened with administration. We're looking like they were going to have to sell Jack Grealish. They've kept him because they've had two billionaires come in and invest. That is an example of people coming into your club and just pumping their own money into it. However, with FSG and with Liverpool's transfer dealings this summer, it's not like that. We have bought players, but on the basis and on the strength of the players sold and how much money that has generated. So this whole idea that we've spent up to 200 million, that is not net. It's not net. And I think people need to really people are just leaving that out to convenience their own agenda in terms of, oh, well, Liverpool need to win something, and if they don't, it's a huge failure on their part. Let's put that out there early and let's say it often to sort of racket up the pressure. So yeah, I do agree with you, Craig. I think it's boring, it's tiring, and it's boring. But unfortunately, I think the only way that we can dispel that is to just keep winning games of football. Because if we do that, then yeah, they'll keep talking about us need to win something. But if we keep winning games of football, we will win something. So I think that's the only way that you can really tackle it. But unfortunately, it's a lot of white noise that Jurgen Klopp is going to have to employ his very best management skills to keep away from the players. Because if that pressure permeates into the mindset of the players, you can then ruin things for yourself. The players are clearly happy. They're clearly enjoying their football. Just let them do that and not worry about all the other shit that surrounds it.
Here. I fully agree with you. Chris, we've seen today that we were very, very lacking in centre-back options. We had young Joe Gomez start alongside Virgil van Dijk today, and I think he played very well. Didn't have too much to trouble him, but I think he played well. What's your thoughts on the centre-back situation, buddy? Were we a little bit naive not bringing somebody in, or do you think Klopp was absolutely right to stay with what he has?
I think he was absolutely right, because bringing another centre-half in gives us like 15 centre-halves or something stupid. We've got loads of them. The fact that so many are out at once is just bad luck. You can't really legislate for that. How many centre-halves, how many players you're going to have in your squad if you start worrying that 6 players in one position are going to be injured all at once? So no, I think we're absolutely fine. We've spent the last 12, 18 months talking about the possibility of Gomez being switched to centre half and playing alongside Van Dijk. Even before Van Dijk came in, people were saying that there is what we want. We want Van Dijk teaching Joe Gomez how to be a centre half. Well, we've got it, so let's not complain about it. You look good today. He's surrounded by top class players. Most notably Van Dijk, but if you look at the boys in front of him, we've got one of the world's most expensive goalkeepers, Brazil's #1 behind him. We've got a choice of fullbacks next to him there, haven't we? Trent, who looks every bit as good as any other right back in the country, and Klein, who will rightly so feel that he's also capable of starting games. So he's not on his own there, is he? He's not been asked to do anything in a poor side that's going to be attacked a lot. He's quick, he's strong, he's good on the ball. He may make the odd mistake. I think we're going to have to deal with that. I've got no problem with that myself. That is learning. And then eventually Lovren's going to be back in the side, and I'm glad to see that Klopp's come out and cleared up all the bullshit surrounding Lovren. Just another excuse for people to go on a witch hunt for me, which I'm not a big fan of. Failing that, there's 2 other boys there. Matty, he isn't going to spend the whole season out. He's injured right now. He's going to be available at some point. He's not exactly a poor centre-half. And we've also got Clavan, who just oozes experience. And I'm pretty sure Fabinho can tuck in there as well if needs be. So we're absolutely fine. We're absolutely fine. I've got no issues whatsoever. I'd just like to say something about that previous point, if you don't mind. I absolutely believe there should be pressure on us. And I think the pressure was built before the transfer window even opened. I think the last ball was kicked of last season, we were already, not just the media, but us as fans and fans of all of the rival clubs all saying Liverpool will be Man City's challengers this season. And then you go into the window and you have the window that we've had. I don't know how anybody can ignore the fact or not talk about the fact that we are literally on the coattails of Manchester City. And if that brings about some pressure, well, that's a pitfall of being a top club who are in the hunt for major honours. So be it. We were Champions League finalists. There was pressure there. You've got to get used to the pressure. Because if they're not used to the pressure, if they don't feel any pressure and overcome it when it does turn up unexpectedly, you remember the Europa League final in Dortmund against. It was. I don't think it happened in the Champions League final so much. I think we felt a bit like the underdogs, but when the pressure's on and you're expected to do well, that's a different kind of pressure, and I think that's something we've got to get used to. But I do think Klopp's right to try and deflect it, though.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with both what you said and what Cash said. Cash, did you want to come back in?
No, you know what? It's just to sort of counter what you're saying, Chris. I totally agree in the sense that there should be pressure. And just to reiterate, I wasn't trying to assert that there shouldn't be pressure. I think there should be. What I don't like is pressure placed upon the club by people with ill intention. So the media are placing pressure on Liverpool because they desperately want a title race that's like genuinely satisfying. And other teams like Man United, particularly, are placing pressure on Liverpool because they can't handle the fact that we have a more balanced squad than them, we have a more forward-thinking manager than them, and we have a better long-term plan than them. They can't handle that because it hasn't been like that. So what I mean is there should be pressure, but the pressure should exist from within.
It should, you're right, but it's just nature of the beast, isn't it? Like you say, the long-term plan, the starting position, the feel-good factor, all of those things can be seen from a mile away. We're not just feeling those ourselves. Everybody outside the club can see it, and they can see what a good place we're in. And I think it's just natural. I just think it's a natural thing. I think we've done it for years, haven't we? If Manchester United haven't won the league, we've all kind of sat laughing and, oh, look how much money you've spent, look how good you are, and you haven't won the league. And Arsenal have won it this year, they went undefeated or whatever. We've done it ourselves, but now we're one of those sides now, aren't we? We've gone up to that top rung of the ladder now, and I think we've got to accept that we're going to come under some of that. Of that scrutiny,
I agree with that.
It's good. It's a good thing because it shows that we're there. If you know what I mean.
This was one of those things of like, it's good to be back in the conversation. It's good to be back in the conversation as a genuine threat, as opposed to
when everybody's heads are falling off, it's good. It is, isn't it? It's when people are not talking about us that's the issue, and when they're not talking about us because we're not challenging, we're not seen as challengers, and we are now clearly. But what I don't go along with is this idea that if we don't win something this season, it's a failure. I think that's bullshit. I've said many a time that it's not about winning one trophy this year. It's about winning lots of trophies over a number of years, which is where I think we're going.
I think what they're trying to do, sort of external sources, they're trying to create this boom or bust kind of like equation, aren't they? They're trying to create this whole like, you've got to win trophies or the consequences are catastrophic, when actually that would be a shame. However, the season after will still begin. We'll still be in an incredibly strong position. So I think they're trying to create this. They're trying to create like a boom or bust kind of like, a sort of equation. That's not the right word, but a boom or bust kind of like scenario, because that rackets up the stakes to a ridiculous height. That's what they're trying to do. And it's just about whether we use that pressure positively or we succumb to it. And I think Jurgen Klopp has created such a strong mentality that hopefully now we can just use it to our advantage.
Excellent place to finish the pod, guys. Do you know what? I could talk about this all night, but time has beaten us. I could sit back and listen to you guys going back and forth for hours. Honest to God, I could. Sometimes it's a pleasure. I've said it before. Just asking questions and sitting back and seeing how the conversation unfolds. Look, one thing is for sure, it was a great start to the season today for Klopp and the boys. A clean sheet, 4 goals in the bank, top of the league. Although, look, that means nothing. But what it does mean is that somebody's going to have to displace us. And fingers crossed nobody can manage to do that for the rest of the season. It's a long way to go, but it's a perfect start. Thank you to Cash and thank you to Chris for joining us on this week's Cop Council podcast. Thank you to you guys for listening. We'll be back next week. Until then, up the Reds.